Hey, what's up, everybody? I think my hands just made a noise. Made a cup of tea. It's too hot. I have to wait for that. Number 400. What can I say? I'm not anywhere really special today for the 400th episode. That's Pete Thorn Live. Unfortunately, not Sunday Live. Yesterday, we were busy. We played a show yesterday and we filmed it. So if you've seen any of the classic rock show videos, they have quite a popular YouTube channel, more popular than mine, with a lot of viewers and 150 million views or something. And, videos going way back, way before I was in the band. But anyways, we filmed yesterday's performance for to make some more videos for YouTube, basically. And it was a classic venue, De Montfort Hall in Leicester. I was going to show you a picture from last night. I didn't find that here. It's legendary because the Beatles played there. The Beatles. Where's some pictures from last night? Yeah, I put one of those up. It was really beautiful when everybody lit up the room with their phones, It used to be lighters back in the day, but now nobody smokes and everybody's got lighters. Everybody vapes now. That's the thing. I don't know. I don't smoke, so. But anyways, yeah, looked like that last night. It was gorgeous. And it's not a big venue. It's, it's probably 800 people in there or something like that. But it's legendary. The Beatles played there 3 times in, I believe 2 times in 1963 and 1 time in 1964, something like that. So it was a great place to film a show. And there's going to be some videos of songs from this tour coming out and stuff like that. So because of that, I was really busy yesterday. I just didn't, there's no way I could do the live stream yesterday, but we were extra busy yesterday. But anyways, I'm so glad I'm here today with you all, and that there's some of you here. We already got 144 online, which is great for it being on a Monday at 12:30 in LA time. Here it's 8:36. I just had a curry. It's like a local pub that's like Indian food, and it's really, really good. It's great. And quiz night as well. So I left everybody there doing the quiz and came here to hang with you guys because that's what we do. That's what we do. I see Big Harry Guitars there. What's up, dude? How you doing? Good to see you. Hope tour is great. Super chat there from Plexico. Thank you, man. Love the Bad Cat Era review. Man, that amp, that's a fantastic amplifier. And, there's occasionally, since I opened up to doing some amplifier demos, a couple of years ago, there's one that'll come along where it's like, I've got to get this amplifier. I have to keep it. It has to be part of the, the stable in the studio. And the Era is one of those. And, as the story goes, the amp was designed as Mark Sampson came back to Bad Cat and designed this terrific amp. I met him at the NAMM show. They basically released it at NAMM. And I met him there at the show for the first time. I'd never met Mark Sampson before. And that was not this year, but, last year. And he passed away a few weeks after that. It was so sad, but I'm so glad I got to meet him. I feel so lucky to have gotten to meet him. But he designed this fantastic amp, and that's the Era. And what a great, it's, it's at least, he did that before he passed, and it's a beautiful amplifier that he kind of put his heart and soul into, obviously, and designed something really unique and different. So it's a great, for those that don't know what we're talking about, it's a Bad Cat amp called the Era 30, and it's kind of those great 90s matchless amps that were sort of, I don't even remember that there was the SC30, right? And the what was the original matchless that was the 212? DC30, right? It was called, I think. And anyway, it's kind of an update, I think, on those, and taking the kind of the sort of a Vox-ish tone forward into the future, and with a great post-phase inverter master volume that is really, really works great. EF86 channel as well as a 12AX7 channel, and you can blend them in this amplifier. And it's actually the amp that I use, to be honest, on the Preaching the End of the World cover that I did with Ian Thornley recently. It just seemed like the right choice for that song, that kind of AC30-ish. It's kind of my go-to now when I want that sound, which is the one sound that I've always said, like, obviously, you know, I've got a signature amplifier line with Suhr PT15, PT100, but the AC30 thing is a different thing. And, you know, it's a totally different kind of sound than Fender Marshall. Those are the biggest, I mean, for tube amps for me. I mean, obviously there's other, you know, modern high gain and stuff like that. But if we're talking about kind of vintage designs that are the classics, to me, you've basically got Fender, Marshall, Vox. Those are the big ones. You know, there's other stuff, but those are the big three, right? And no one does the other. Although there's something in common with Vox and Marshall for sure, but it's its own thing. The Vox thing is its own thing. It's just a different, you know, sound to me that they're more similar than different, I guess. You know, the Marshall, sort of like, you know, late 60s Marshall and mid 60s onward Vox, but it's still its own thing, and it's very distinct and different, I think, certainly in the feel and the touch and the compression and all that stuff of the circuit. So anyway, I love that era amplifier, and it is the amp that I decided to use on that Preaching the End of the World for all the guitar parts that I played on electric guitar. So in the last sort of, you know, pre-chorus going into the chorus, when the electric kicks in and you hear actually in the middle too, I mean, you hear the rotary kind of guitars come in the bridge and stuff like that. If you've listened to the track, that's all the amp set clean. And then when I come in and into the, you know, into that part, the pre-chorus, that's the Era 30 really cranked up, you know, doing its thing. And it's just got a great, you know, that edge of breakup, you know, into crunch kind of sound that, you know, isn't too metal or hard rock or anything, but rocking, you know, like the Brian May thing or whatever. It does a thing. So anyways. Oh, no, super chat I got to grab up there. Thanks, Plexico, for that super chat. Appreciate that. Looking forward to seeing you in Darlington this coming Saturday. I'll see you there. We've had some great shows recently. Lots more to come. I mean, really, there's about at least another 8 or something in the UK, I think, before we go to Europe and do 6. So I guess we're getting into the home stretch of this tour. We've done most of the big shows in the UK, although we've got Edinburgh coming out, which would be great. We're playing a place called Queen's Hall up there in Scotland, and it's a place that I think it's called Queen's Hall. It's a place that we used to play. We've since moved to a different venue for the last few years, but it wasn't available. There's something going on there this year, so they booked a date back at the Queen's. It's a smaller venue, but it's kind of a great rocking. Can't bring video in there because the stage isn't big enough, but it's got a great vibe. Like, and it kind of doesn't sound amazing in there. It's a little echoey and kind of crazy, but it's a blast playing there. The gigs always go off and it's fun. So, in Scotland, crowds are always badass. They want to rock. But anyway, I digress. I'll see you in Darlington there, Mark, next week. And I'll grab that super chat in a sec. Are you happy with the IR load? Yeah, so it's amazing. I've been using it now for at least the last, I don't know, probably like 6-7 shows, something like that, maybe more, maybe 8 shows, ever since we played in Guildford. I don't know, I lose track of how many gigs we do. But I've got it dialed now where I really like it. I'm actually dialing in a bit of the reactance knob. So with the reactance knob all the way down and the presence up a little bit, Dave says, okay, that he's found that actually this is the closest to, you know, 1-to-1, like if you plug an amp into the cabinet or the amp through the load and the reamp into a cabinet, he thinks, you know, reactance all the way off and presence up a little bit on this box is exactly like the original amplifier sound. Sounds perfect. But what I'm doing is I'm actually turning the reactance knob up, which takes it out of sort of completely linear response into a little bit of EL34 tube amp character mixed in to the sound. So I'm running it on about 1030 or something, the reactance knob just up a little ways. And then I've got the presence up at about 9 o'clock. And it just sounds great. Like on stage, the feel's great. It sounds great. It's just cool. And then the IRs to the house have been a big improvement. As I mentioned last week, I think it's for me, much better than using a couple of 57s that are never quite placed the same every gig and have bleed from the stage and all that stuff. So, and the sound guy keeps saying, man, it's working out great out front. He loves it. And I've heard good comments from people coming to see the show. And so it seems like it's really cool. Everybody seems happy. So that's good. Yeah. Great show in Leicester last night. We loved it. Thanks. Yeah, it was. I had a great time last night. I mean, you guys were amazing. The crowd at Demo Fort was fantastic, especially for filming. Really good energy. We've already seen some of the video from the show, just rough, raw video and stuff. And it seems like the energy is really great, and it's going to make for some nice videos for YouTube and stuff. So, yeah. Yep. Let's see. Spiral says, been watching your videos for years and learned a lot. Thank you. Will the PTP90s be available without the purchase of a guitar? I got to hit up Justin about that. I'm not actually sure right now if they've done that yet or not, to be honest. My knees hurt. I'm not sure, but I will check for you and see if they've made them available. It would seem like something we should be doing. So where are you at? I'm in Peterborough right now. Play a gig here tomorrow. And then let's take a look at what I've got over the next week here. Peterborough at the New Theatre tomorrow. Then we're in Poole at the Lighthouse. And then we're at Edinburgh Queen's Hall after that. And then we're in Darlington, which we talked about a little bit. So that'll be Friday and Saturday night next week. Some good gigs should be. Friday and Saturday nights, the UK, those are the nights that people can have a couple drinks and they loosen up, and the shows are always better. The Corn Exchange in Ipswich, then on Sunday, and Salisbury at the City Hall after that. Shrewsbury at the Theatre Severn. That's actually quite a run. We do 5 in a row, I do believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know that we've ever done 5 in a row. Not that we can't. It's just a matter of pacing. But we're actually doing 5 in a row. Then we've got a day off in well, it doesn't matter because we're not playing there. But then we play the Baths Hall in Scunthorpe, and then we go to Helsinki, Finland. So by that day, I'm taking a fly rig to Helsinki, by the way, which is going to be quad Cortex and the new little, Wampler power amp, which I have one of only a few of that are out there, that is very, very similar to the power amp that's in the IR load. So I'm going to take that and use it with quad Cortex just for on-stage cabs that I'll be renting. So it's going to be I'm going to travel with a guitar vault with just 2 guitars in it to Finland. I'll do the whole show on 2 guitars. And I'll have the little Wampler power amp quad Cortex doing my tones that night, just for that one show. And then after that, we fly back to Luxembourg, do a gig there at the Rock Hall. Then we play in Ghent, Tilburg, Sittard, Arnhem, where I played on my birthday last year, I think, I think that's right, with Satchvi. And that's the last gig, actually. And that brings us all the way to the 9th of March, at which point I'll fly back to the States. Crazy. And on to another adventure with Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Kenny Aronoff, Marco Mendoza. So, what else? King Ultramega is awesome, says Richard. Yeah, they've done some really nice, versions of Soundgarden songs, Audio Slave, and now Chris Cornell solo. And I think, I'm really proud of the way that song came out. So, yeah, I think it's a really cool project and for a good cause. All the proceeds, I believe, all go to Musicares. So, yeah, everybody involved is just doing it for a good cause. And yeah. Is the bad cat hot cat slamming? I did a video for one you can listen to on my channel. I think that's the same amp that we're talking about. All the bad cat amps, I think I've done videos for 3, maybe. Can't remember exactly now, but I think it's 3. And I believe one of them was the previous to the era was the hot cat. And it was very good. It had I think I mentioned it. It had a kind of a rich, sophisticated sound compared to my 50-watt Marshall. It sounded more like polished and like mid forward and just complete. I think, my Marshall was a little rattier, which can be cool too. It's its own, nothing wrong with a 50-watt Marshall, obviously, but yeah. Archetype John Mayer, great addition to the neural range. Absolutely. That's a terrific sounding plugin. I really like it. You need a good clean sound just to play something beautiful with, or, hit with a bit of drive for kind of a sophisticated lead tone, and you don't want to screw around too much. Look no further than that plugin. It's fantastic. It's really, really, really good. The 3 amp setting's amazing for, just like, I just need a great clean, with maybe some beautiful reverb and compressed nicely, to play something beautiful through. Look no further. It's great. So yeah. Anything new from Suhr coming soon? Well, we're working on PT50 and, making good progress on that. And, come hell or high water, I think it'd be, it's supposed to be NAMM. So next year. So that'll be the, that to me is soon, because as the years fly by, I know January will come, like, right around the corner. I know it was just January, but we need that long to get it finished, but it'll be really cool. There's that super chat right there. Congratulations on 400. Your video of Henry playing the Star Wars medley was awesome. He just does that stuff off the top of his head. If you didn't see, on my, I think it was on my stories or something, but we were in the playing. Where the heck was it that we even were? It was, I'm not even remember the name, but it was a venue where they actually set up and filmed, or sorry, not filmed, recorded the Star Wars score with the London, Philharmonic, I guess, and the original score for Star Wars. And so I said, Henry, just like, he started playing like all this Star Wars stuff, but he's one of those musicians that just does it from memory, and he's amazing. He's a really incredible musician, Henry. He's got big ears, and he plays drums great too. He's a really, really good drummer. He's got skills. So yeah, and a great guy. Solid singer too. One of those people just does it all. Yeah. I was like, do the cantina, and he just plays it, he just can do it from memory. He's like, what key is it in? I don't know. I don't care. It sounds like this. And it sounds exactly like it to me. So yeah. Do you have a standard 12th fret action measurement you kind of go off of? I do it by feel. I know when it's right, and I know when it's too low and when it's too high. And on a certain guitar, the whole thing is that certain guitars, like depending on the radius, you might have to have the, on a Strat that's 7.5 or a quarter or whatever they are. The more radiused fingerboards, or even on an original Les Paul, which is like a 10, I think, you might have to have a little different radius than, or height. Les Paul, obviously, you don't have individual height adjustments on the saddles, but Tunematic is already pre-radiused or whatever. But it just depends on the guitar, really, and then on a straight, 16 or something, like my old Jackson, you can have the action super low and not get it to buzz. And I generally like the action as low as I can get it without it being annoying and choking anywhere. So depends on the guitar, but I'll get it as low as I can without feeling like it's compromised or buzzing too much. I actually probably set my action a little low for some people. Some people pick up my guitar and they're like, whoa, this is too low for me. Like, like it feels like it's choking for them. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine if you just play light, So generally I don't mind a bit of buzz and stuff if I'm attacking really hard, but if I'm playing light, I want to be able to get it, relatively clean. It's weird. It's like in some of my videos, you could, you know how I solo the part all the time on pedal demos, and you can hear it outside of the mix. You probably in the mix maybe don't notice the buzz or something on a clean part, and then when it's soloed, you might be like, oh, there's some rattle going on there, and that's kind of what I just feel like it's, you can have a little bit of rattle, especially in a mix when there's other things going on. You're not going to perceive it that much, really. So generally speaking, I try and get the action pretty low. Yeah. Let's see. So happy to see you this Monday, says Braxall. What's up? How you doing? Good to see you too. Just reading all the comments here. This Cam says, during lives I take notes and later go back and research certain things you're talking about, and it's helped you. That's awesome. I just hope I don't say anything stupid. Go research it and go, that's not true. No. Did STP play those 90s Marshall Samson albums in the 90s? I don't think so. His tone, Dean, is Demeter, believe it or not. Demeter, I think he used a Demeter preamp into a power amp, mixed with an AC30. That's, his main amp choices were, and I think he's kind of stuck with that for a long time. You could ask Dave Friedman that, because he's done his rigs for a long time, I think. But Demeter combined with AC30 is kind of, so he's got a bit of a modern thing and a bit of a, vintage AC30 thing going on there. And I think he kind of at some point really, I know in the early days he was using a mid-90s Les Paul that was, basically one of those mid-90s standards with, humbuckers. But then at some point it seemed like he kind of switched to P90s and was kind of a single coil guy by the time they were doing like, Big Bang Baby and those, what is that, songs from the Vatican Gift Shop. I think around that album, I think he was playing sort of like a Les Paul special a lot. Those are good records. A lot of great guitar playing on those too. I really like Dean's, I love the production of those records, how sometimes he would not double things. Like, you'd have a skinny guitar sound or like a cool, rhythm sound, but it'd just be panned in one speaker, kind of old school, almost like Eddie Van Halen would do, or even throw back to the 60s or something, where you'd have, not so much going on all the time. And he would just commit to that. I loved that, real defined kind of snarly guitar sounds and stuff, and pretty interesting. Yeah. How does Vox compare to Trainwreck EL84 amps? The Trainwreck, as far as I know, at least the Liverpool, there's another one too. Wasn't there a third Trainwreck that had EL84s? But I think it's the Liverpool, which is the one I made a video of, actually kind of has a Fendery sort of front end, I think. So to be honest, I think the Trainwrecks are kind of their own thing, because they're combining EL84 with this sort of like that one I had at the that you see, I made a video of it saying this amp was $50,000 or whatever it went for. I think it's the one John Mayer owns. Not John Mayer, sorry, excuse me. Joe Bonamassa owns it now, I think. The one I made a video of. Pretty sure about that. But you can see it on my YouTube channel, the Trainwreck that I made the video of. And I believe it's a Fendery front end, believe it or not. It's got its own thing going on, but it's got, certain parts in it that make it its own. Because, I could say that, well, it's basically a Fender topology or whatever, but it's like, once you switch out this, like a couple, main sort of components, it kind of becomes its own thing. So I think, that doesn't really tell the whole story. Yeah. Stooges Raw Power was an AC30 for years. I thought it was one of the ultimate Marshall sounds. Yeah, it's like Richie Blackmore. He recorded a lot. I think he did a lot with a 335 and an AC30. An AC30 is so badass. Quite honestly, the way they record and the way that which is why I used it on that track. When you go listen to that track, I didn't use an AC30, but I used the Era 30, through my old Blackback 412. But it's a sound, man, and it's a really, really cool sound. A little skinnier and a little more defined in the, it's just kind of the mids and just doing its thing. It's like, yeah. Rocket and Liverpool. Yeah. So I don't know about the Rocket. about the design of the rocket, if it's more voxy or not. But I know the Liverpool, which you would think would be sort of, but it's kind of Fendery front end, as I understand it. You ask Dave Friedman this stuff because he's way more, dialed into circuits and stuff, and you can hit him up on Tone Talk and ask him. But that's what my understanding of it. Not sure about the rocket, but the Liverpool's Fendery, I think, in the front end, and then with the EL84 power amp. Congrats on 400 episodes. Amazing show in Coventry on Saturday. Thanks. That's where we were. Coventry. Yeah. Epic sound. The IR load must be working well. Thank you. You were nice and loud in the mix. Maybe as I was now row 3 and feeling the 412s. Yeah, you get a bit of me. I've got a screen in front, but the sides of the cabs are still pushing out into the, you can still get those. And so it's a bit of a mix of 412s as well as what's coming out of the PA with the IRs. I think if you're that close, you can probably hear the cabs on stage. So yeah. But thanks for coming to the gig. Appreciate it. What do you think of Basswood and the Suhr Standard Plus? I mean, is the Standard Plus the new one that they're doing with the beautiful flame tops? And I really like actually the tone, especially for gain, of Basswood with a maple top. That's kind of the Wolfgang combination, and those guitars sound great to me. And I know it's one of John Suhr's favorite tone combinations. It's actually what I have on my 7-string that I play with Satch Vai, is Basswood with a maple top. So cool, I mean, great for gain. It kind of does a nice warm but clear thing, just a nice, it's sweet sounding. I really like mahogany too with maple. I mean, on the Suhrs, that's my HH formula. Is kind of like it's a some light chambering going on, original real mahogany body with a maple top, and that sounds great too. Yeah. Yeah, love your videos and appreciate the tastiness of your playing. Thank you. Thanks for that super chat as well there, Sergio. Do you ever play acoustic live? Yeah, I do. Not doing it this time around in this band. Satch Vai, I actually play acoustic on just one tune right now. We'll see if that changes or not coming up. But I was playing acoustic on If I Could Fly, and I brought a Fender Acoustasonic for that. Which worked out great because I actually kind of went to an electric sound at the end of the tune in order to kind of fill out the it's funny, I end up harmonizing with Steve and Joe actually on a line, and I'm playing the Acoustasonic with distortion on it. It's kind of like, I always said it's kind of like a bad dream. Like, hey, you're gonna play on stage with Joe Satriani and Steve Vai, and you gotta harmonize with them, but here's this guitar and it's got 12 gauge strings on it, and it's an acoustic. Sounds like something out of a bad dream, but I had to make it work. So I'm using the quad Cortex on that, and I add a bit of distortion and to the sound and everything, and actually ends up working out sounding great, because on an Acoustasonic they have these kind of like modeled electric guitar sounds in there. It's a bunch of different acoustic sounds on the switch, and then you put the switch all the way down to the bridge position or into position number 2, and you roll the I think it's the tone control all the way up, and you get a kind of tweedish amp sound going on. That's kind of a modeled thing. And so I do that, and then I add a little bit of amp sim to the DI sound, and it's all layered and everything. And I'm doing that. And kind of one of the neat things you can do in a quad Cortex is like a parallel, like I've got an acoustic guitar sound going through one chain on the quad, a little bit of stereo it's a nice sort of a polished, slightly compressed, slightly stereo acoustic thing going on. And then later in the song, when I roll on the tone and hit the switch down for a bit of electric flavor, I actually switch in another path on the quad Cortex that goes through kind of a lightly distorted amp rig with a cab and stuff. And it's kind of like one of those blended, you ever hear people do that where they blend, like, it's kind of cool, like where you can blend a piezo pickup with an amp with a bit of drive on it. That's kind of what I was going for. So it works. But anyways, and then I play acoustic with Five for Fighting as well when I've been jamming with them. And yes, I mean over the years, I mean Chris Cornell, played acoustic. Melissa Etheridge played acoustic. Don Henley played acoustic. Used to do like End of the Innocence and stuff on 12 string, and so yeah. But generally, it's funny. It's like the majority of my playing over a number of years has been, last 20 years or something. It's not really been on acoustic. Remember, I played it quite a bit with Jewel actually when I toured with her in 2006. At least 4 or 5 songs I was probably doing on 12 and 6 string. Yeah. Todd says you have a great community here. Congratulations on 400. Thanks, man. Happy 400th. Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you. Is CRS coming back to the States? I don't know. I mean, we'll see about next year. Not this year. But I'm still touring all the way through July almost with different things. I'm so busy, but yeah. Yeah. I have an SV20 with an Iron Man mini attenuator. Would a Variac do a similar job, or is the volume reduction negligible? If you're shaving off half the volume, yeah, it's not going to do that. It's more like 3 dB or something. And you've already kind of got the cathode bias SV20. It's already a bit softer sounding to me than the true plexi thing. And then if you lower the voltage, I don't know on that amp. I think you're better off with the Iron Man, to be honest. You're good how you are, I think. Yeah. Do you use amp voltage attenuators, and do they really make tube amps sound better? Well, it depends on the amp. So, if it's a modern amp, I wouldn't bother. Unless it was a modern Marshall style amp or something you want to experiment. Like if it's a, plexi reissue or something. Okay, maybe then, because they're, those kind of do a cool hazy thing when you drop the voltage. But if it's a modern amp, it can actually be bad to drop the voltage just like 90 or something on like a channel switcher, because sometimes the switching logic needs proper voltage and stuff. So I think if it's any kind of modern amp that's meant to work at 120, just leave it alone. But if it's a vintage amp, like a 70s or 60s Marshall or 70s, 60s Fender Vox, the US ones are kind of made to work at like 110 anyway, I think. So the brown box, like something like that, can be good for, just components, life of the amplifier, the way the amplifier was supposed to sound. Not a bad thing at all, Generally on those amps, I mean, I prefer, not, 122 volts or something. You know what I mean? They all sound better to me at, it's 100, 105, 110. To me, it's just a little sweeter or something. And I think it's the way they were meant to. That's the voltage they were designed for. So this is like 110. Yeah, as I understand it. Yeah. Happy 400th show. Just first viewing was during COVID for me. Remember that time? First I seen you was before that, when I bought a Waza DS1 and was searching for videos on the pedal. I made a video for that, right? I did, right? Waza DS1. I remember the Waza version of the Metal Zone, which is like way better. It's actually a really good distortion pedal. Way better than the original Metal Zone, in my opinion. Who we got here? Anthony with the super chat. Thank you, man. And congrats on 400. Time for an alternative from my half stack JCM 2000 TSL. The sound is what I want, but gigging is a hassle. Can you suggest a combo alternatives or combo with pedals? Is it just, it's a half stack. Okay, so you want to get a combo. I mean, combo with, it's like, if you want that Marshall and it's a 3-channel kind of thing, you might look at in a combo. Well, I mean, a PT15 is a great alternative. To be honest, it's not a combo, but you could get a 112 and a head. I got to recommend my own amp because it'll work great for you. For most people in the volume, I think it's like, just get the 112 with the H75 style. It's called the Creamback H, cab, and the head, and you'll be great. Other amps, you could look at it like a Friedman Runt. To me, in a combo is a great option. I think it's a really, it's a Fendery clean with a basic Fender clean, simple clean channel with sort of a BE style drive. That's a real good option. Beyond that, maybe something like the 51, if it real cheap, 5150 Iconic, I thought had a pretty darn good clean channel when I heard it. So maybe look at those three, like a Friedman Run combo, or my amp, obviously P215, either in the IR version or the version without the IRs if you just want to have a cab and mic it up. And an Iconic, those are a pretty good selection there of amps, I think. Other stuff, actually Blackstar, pretty darn good combo that I made a video of it. If you look up Pete Thorn Blackstar amp, you'll find the video I made for a 112 a couple of years ago. That's a good sounding amp that I actually took to a gig once and used at a club. It's a 2-channel with a clean and a dirty channel, but you can dirty up the clean channel if you want. And then it's got a boost you can use on both channels. So you can kind of get 4 levels of gain out of it. Really quite a good sounding amplifier, I thought. They do, because Blackstar does some good stuff for the dough, So that might be an option for you there too. 400 shows, says Chef Jeff. I know, it's crazy. We've done 400 of these. It was wild. We're still kicking. I enjoy it every week. There's a big old super chat I got to get up there. Actually, there's 2 now. It's Peter, I think. I'm going to catch that in a second. Just working down through the comments. Still in my, I'm going to upload. I did a video for the Jose finally, Braxall. And you mentioned that you're in the honeymoon stage with your Friedman Jose. I'll be putting my video out for that this week. I filmed it a couple of months ago, but I'll finally get it out. I know I'm about 1 year and 2 months late on that. But anyway, you can hear the sounds that I got with it. And I described some of the features and that I feel like, were worth kind of nailing down in a video. Yeah. Look for that coming up this week. Kramer 84 says Cam Doubleday. I think I know about giving an overall opinion of Kramers today. I don't, I've played them just a little bit at like the Gibson Garage in Nashville and stuff. I think they're cool. I love that they're doing it again and kind of, it's like they were kind of a little bit behind the curve, I think, on coming back. Charvel's obviously and Jackson's had a little bit more of a, presence with Fender pushing it a little bit more and stuff, and then Gibson's owns Kramer. But I like what I see from them and like the stuff they've been putting out, kind of reissuing Pacers and stuff, because those guitars are guitars of my youth. So, but I haven't picked them up and played them that much, like just a little bit at the Gibson Garage and stuff. They seem cool. I really love that Japan-made reissue of the original Beretta. And I kind of, I've many times like almost pushed the buy button on Reverb sale on one of those, because it's like, an ivory one of one of those I would love, just because it's, I remember when they came out and it's like a guitar, just as, you're trying to relive your youth or something. But I can't say as I've got a ton of experience with them playing them. So, but I get the urge. So, yeah. Did you know you could be a bass singer? Well, I'll tell you. Yeah, I probably could. It's funny because bands I'm in, I've always got to sing, like everybody's always given me high parts or like moderately high, maybe not super high, but it's always like, like I'm getting up there to a G or an A, I guess, above middle C. Sometimes it's like, guys, do you hear how I talk? Like, I can't, it's not, I have to push as hard as I can to hit those notes. Full voice. I don't want to falsetto it because that doesn't sound good to me with my voice. So, but anyways, as long as I'm in a good zone and a little bit warmed up and stuff, I can get up there. But it's like I do have a lower voice, obviously. So, yeah. For your solo album, you should film a video in the vein of Vi's "For the Love of God" up in Canada. That video is, when we play that song, that video plays behind us every night. So I know the video well that you're talking about. Actually need a pedal with good effects in between line 6, HX, Stomp, H90, Eventide, Nano, Cortex. What do you think? Are you talking about like a just effects, right? I mean, you should also look at the VP4 from Fractal, terrific. You know, great all-in-one. Don't sleep on that because that's a really good solution. As far as an all-in-one that does everything, that's kind of my favorite right now. As far as a, you know, great effect unit, you know, your delays, rotary, reverb, pitch, all that stuff. So check it out as well. But I love the H90. You know, it drives me crazy trying to program it, but it does great stuff. I mean, the sounds are great. I still don't know how to save a sound on it unless I look at how do I save again? I look in the manual and then I figure it out. I have to do all the editing on the computer. I'm useless trying to edit it on the pedal itself. I cannot figure it out. It's above my pay grade. I'm not kidding. I can't figure it out. It's just so difficult to use, but it does eventide sounds and they're brilliant. So yeah. Anyway. And, you know, yeah, for sure, HX Stomp's a good unit for what it is and stuff. And Nano Cortex, I mean, interesting use for it. You know, for sure, there's some solid effects in there, but I think of it mainly as a capture player, you know, to do amp captures. And then that's got some nice effects that you can also use. But I wouldn't say it's primarily an effect unit. Yeah. Here's somebody with a Braxtol's got an old Demeter tube preamp, 2 channels on the 90s, VTM P2A. Is that the preamp VTM P2A? I don't remember them that well, but yeah. Dean uses a lot of old small combos in studio. That wouldn't surprise me at all. I just know kind of like his core rig, you know, especially for gigs and stuff. It's always been the 30s and the Demeter. Yeah. Okay, moving kind of down through the chat here. Let's see. There's somebody that was at the Watford show. Privileged to watch you and the guys at the Watford show standing up front against the stage. What a buzz. The onstage sound plus PA was an awesome mix. We are not worthy. Thanks, man. Great to hear that a lot of you guys make it out and see the shows. It's awesome. Yeah. Is there an amp that is a perfect cross between a Fender and a Marshall? Well, I mean, I'm pretty proud of the PT amps that way, with a Fendery clean and a Marshally drive channel. Are you saying, though, that mix the tones? To me, that's a kind of a JTM 45 is really, because it's a Fender Bassman, really, just with, you know, a few values, parts, tubes different and stuff like that. But it's essentially, that's where the JTM 45, the origins was, you know, back to Tweed Fender. So that maybe, you know, yeah. But, you know, if you're looking for Fender and Marshall in one amp, I honestly, I mean, just, you know, not just selling stuff, there's nothing to me that does it better than a PT100, really. And a PT15 is really cool too. It's just more dumbly clean channel, but it's still a great, you know, American clean with, I've seen a lot of great comments about that amp. Still, people are still getting lots of use out of, you know, even though it's 6-7 years old now, they're still really digging on the PT15s, which is awesome. Yeah. Any tips for nailing the "I'm the Only One" tone or solo? You mean Melissa Etheridge? I'd have to go back and listen, to be honest. It was Shanks, I'm sure, that played it in the studio. It was probably some variety of, you know, Marshall with some drives. He's a friend of mine. I could ask him, but I think he originally would have played it. Yeah. I used to use, yeah, PT100, you know, with some sort of drive in front. I don't even remember what, probably something clonish or maybe tube screamerish in front. Yeah. And I played with Melissa. A good, you know, I remember it being a kind of a good dry, you know, sort of Marshall sound was what I approached it with. The Liverpool and the Express have the same gainy Fender-based front end with a different power section. Rocket is made in the top boost schematic. Okay, so the Rocket is more like an AC30 then. I thought it might be, but yeah, Liverpool, kind of, you know, confusingly named maybe, but more Fender actually front end. So yeah, don't forget to hit the like, says Ben. Thanks, Ben. Yeah, for sure. 100%. Monday live. I know the reason I'm doing this today is because we were filming yesterday. You know, had a multi-camera shoot going on of our show at the Montfort Hall in Leicester, so I kind of had to concentrate on the day, and I couldn't really take time out in the middle of the day to do the live stream. It was a busy day, busy work day. So yeah. What else? Let's see. I wanted to not like basswood because it's cheap, but basswood guitars I've had sound great, smooth and even. Yeah, that's what I think, smooth and even. So it's nice with gain because it's just like you hit some distortion, you're like, ooh, kind of not ratty sounding. It's got a nice smooth edge to it. Still clear enough, but there's a warmth. It's not like dark. It's like smooth and like kind of nice with gain. It just sort of works with gain. So I totally agree with that. That's the thing. Maybe kind of a little like not sterile, but a little like not the most exciting thing with maybe like some clean sounds or edge of breakup or something, but certainly with high gain, it's got a great thing. I wonder if you agree with that. Like primarily, I think of it as a high gain wood. If I wanted like the ultimate vintage Strat sound, I don't know if I'd be going for basswood, but yeah. Bartell amplifier, Swingland 112 combo. I'm sorry, I don't know that amp. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that one, but I'll watch out for it. What happened with the Bassman you used to demo guitars and pedals with? I was having some problems with the pots, when they get so dirty that it's cutting out and it's like not happening. So I actually had Dave Friedman go through it recently, and now it's operational again. But for a while, it was kind of like every time I would plug in to do something with it, it would be like not happening. And then it was like, oh, and I just put it on the shelf for a while. And then eventually I got it worked on. So it works now. I should pull it out and use it again. It's a great amp. Totally awesome sounding amp for sure. I don't really find that, for doing pedal demos that it's, I guess as a frame of reference, it would be good to have there, but the PT100 clean channel is every bit as good Fender clean for pedal demos, I find. So that's why, because it's just like, well, it takes a minute to switch out the amps and have only got room for so many of them there. And when I've got a PT100 there, it's like, it's already sort of super reverb crossed with a twin on channel 1. But I guess there's something that it says Fender on it and it's from the 60s. So everybody, relates to it. And maybe it's yeah, that kind of thing, would be good for me to use sometimes. I'll bust it out again when I have time, when I'm not in England, which is almost never these days. Been a minute since seeing you live. Peter, thanks for the big old super chat. I appreciate you, man. It's really kind of you. Videos this week. Yeah, so I just mentioned, got one coming that I filmed a while ago for the Friedman Jose amp. Super late on that because it came out not this NAMM, but last one. But I finally got a hold of one and made a video with it. I tried to explain some things about the different modes and the 2 different style presence circuits that are in it that you can switch between, and kind of touch on that stuff and show good demos of that. And of course, recorded a song with it and stuff. So, yeah. So that's coming. Oh, there's another big old super chat. Geez, you guys, too kind. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Peter. And yeah, so watch out for that one. I'll have another one coming. Just put out one. What did I just put out a video for? It's like I did one for the speaker, the Schultz Sugar Cone, and then the one that I just put out was for the MXR EVH Modern High Gain, which has gotten good views, actually. It's up to about 30K, which is great for me. For my little channel. Feel good about that. Great sounding overdrive pedal. Distortion pedal, really. Distortion. We got to call it distortion. So, but anyways, so I'll also have one coming for, did I put out my video for the Keeley Reverb yet? I don't know that I did that. I've got one for the Andy Timmons. Did I do that? Maybe I did that already. It's hard for me to remember, guys, because I'm just, it's just a matter of old age, isn't it? Not old age, but you know what I'm saying. Can't remember, but I got a couple in the can that I still got to edit that I brought out here on the road. Just taking a look at my videos here, what I've put out in the last Let's see, the MXR EVH, the speaker. Oh yeah, I did put out, of course, the Keeley video, reverb video. That was the one before that. Yeah, so the Jose one's coming, and then I know I've got one more, and I can't remember. Oh, the parametric. That's it. Canadian-made parametric EQ pedal that looks like it. Or sorry, it's meant to mimic the Furman PEQ3 classic pedal for boosting Marshalls that a lot of 80s dudes used. Really good sounding pedal. That video is done. I just have to finish editing it, and I've been promising those guys for a long time, so I'll get it up and out. That pedal I love so much. I got it out here on the road actually, so I've been using it on a couple of like kind of 80s tunes that we do in the set, and it does a great. You know, you kind of want to make it's like a poor man's Jose Marshall or something. You know, you want to you know. I'd say poor man's, but it works great. I mean, it's like you boost 3K and you boost 800 hertz and you cut 100 a little bit. It just slices into the front of the amp and tightens up. You know, like imagine you want to take a JCM 800 and more distortion, push it over the top, boost it, but not in the way a tube screamer does. More cutting, more searing, more like just more like 80s metal. It'll do it. So that's that. All right, so watch for that, Peter. And hey, thanks for the big old super chat. Appreciate you. I like your acoustic guitar playing. Thanks. I love playing acoustic. I don't do it enough, I guess. You know, but I appreciate that. Jonathan says he's fallen in love with Guild acoustics. Plan on getting one soon. They make some nice stuff. They're kind of the underdog, but I've played a few really nice Guilds over the years. They're kind of really well known for their 12 strings too. They make great 12 strings. Guild for sure. Yeah. Just watch a video. Oh, I saw that video as well. Video of your pal Melissa doing a band for Norman. She was playing a 12-string Ovation. She always, yeah, that was her guitar. You know, the Ovations was. She was a early adopter, I think, and you know she's played them throughout her career, and she makes them work great. They sound like her to me. You know, that's like her tone. So, yeah. Steven says, I don't like lowering voltages on SLOs. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I don't think that would be a good amp to do it on. What else we got here? Had an 80s $200 Ibanez Roadstar router for $300. Put in a JB Pearly Gates Gibson PAF copy. Sounded great. Had a basswood slab body. Is that like a Roadstar? Was it like an Explorer shape? Because those are the only ones I can think of that had $300. Yeah. Here's somebody. My knee shirt says I watch the Metal Zone video often. It was a good pedal. Sir Badger combo. They didn't. I don't know that they made a lot of the combos, but they did do one. They're cool for sure. One channel, you know, so it's a straight up, you know, kind of set at edge of breakup and roll down for cleans and maybe hit it with a pedal for leads. Yeah. Yeah. I like the demos I've seen on the Boss Waza tube expander. I've used that, you know, years ago. You know, I got to recommend our box for, you know, the IR load these days for, you know, a killer load plus stereo power amp and great sounding reamp and all that stuff. But yeah, Runt 50 is pretty happy. Yeah, good amp, good gigging, you know, 2-channel Fender Marshall thing for sure. I think so. Thanks for a great show in Watford for CRS, but I'll be back in the future, says Dave. You crushed all the parts, but love the Neil Giraldo. That's a fun one. Total sleeper tune. I'd never learned the solo, and you know, it's a fun solo to play. It's kind of this wacky. There's like that one really weird, you know, the B flat in the middle that's totally out of the key. Yeah, so it's a strange, you know, solo, but he's great, man. Those two win, you know. Neil and Pat are you know, legends, you know, and talk about aging gracefully and stuff. I remember seeing them open for Journey in Montreal in about 2009 or 10 or something, maybe 2011, and they were great. They were great, and I think they're still great now. So still super good. Yeah. Have you played the new Friedman AC30? I have not actually. No, I look forward to trying it. I want to give it a go. I'm sure it's totally cool. Yeah. There's another super chat. Thank you for that. And I'll grab that other one in a minute. Marshall 112 open back cab sounds great elsewhere in my room. everywhere in my room. I've got a PT-15 212 closed back, and I struggle with it in a small room. The sound changes a lot depending on where I am. Is this normal? Yes. So an open back spreads throughout the room, which can be, it's the beautiful thing of a combo, is that they do spread all over the place, and you get this front back sound going everywhere. Any kind of closed back is going to be beamy and push forward. And, it's just kind of the nature of a closed back cabinet. And you might just prefer open backs. The sound of an open back is also the appropriate thing for many things, other than when you're trying to get heavy and you need junk out of the cabinet, because the speaker's going back and forth and, energy going backwards and stuff. They just aren't as tight. They don't have that thunk that a closed back cabinet will have. So when you're trying to rock and do muted eighth notes and things like that, a closed back cabinet is just the way to go. If you need air and spread around a room, and often at smaller gigs, it's why a Fender Deluxe Reverb works great at a lot of gigs with some pedals. It's the right choice a lot of the time for volume, and bring a couple good pedals and turn it up to 4 or something, and with a kind of drummer that doesn't hit too hard. It's like, well, that sounds really good, but you can't try and play some Judas Priest with it or something. It doesn't sound right. So it just depends on what you're doing. But yeah, totally normal sound, right, guys? out of any kind of 212. We actually modeled those cabinets. They're very similar to other, Marshall makes a cabinet that was for the 2061 heads, the 212. So they're like a little baby 412 kind of design, but the speakers staggered, a couple 12s, and really similar. It's kind of like a small 412, really. Sort of vibe, which are also beamy as hell, and annoying sometimes to try and get you move around it. And of course, there's no sound coming out of the back; all the sound's coming out the front. And kind of the best sound is often when you're sort of standing on top of it, and it's not hitting you right in the ears. But yeah, that's just kind of the nature of closed back cabs. Yeah. What else? Let's see. Donald says he's got an 85 Kramer. That's cool. I used to have about an 80, 84 or 83 Pacer. That was, I haven't had a lot of Kramers, I think, and maybe that was my only Kramer. It was blue. It was a weird transitional one that had a hockey stick headstock, but it was a Pacer with the volume and the tone, and then the 3-way toggle, but just one humbucker. And I think it would do series parallel or split on the little mini toggle. It was like a mini toggle, but that went 3 ways. Weird guitar. And my first guitar was a Floyd Rose, and I loved that thing, and I sold it, and I wish I never had. It was really cool. Blue Burst. Should have had a Pacer, sort of like the Suhr headstock, like the Beak headstock. Should have had one of those. I don't know. It had a neck that looked like it came off a Beretta. So I think it was a weird transitional thing. Yeah. I have an 85 Beretta, but it's all right. It only does one thing. Clean sounds, forget it. Yeah, it's probably got a JB in it, right? And just hot, and that's what they do. That's what they do. There's Anthony with a big old super chat. Dude, thank you so much. I appreciate you. You're way too kind. Thanks for the amp recommendations. I'm dropping off early because my guitar wants to be played, but I wanted to again donate for everyone here that can. You're too kind, dude. Really appreciate you. If you left already, I'm sorry I missed you and didn't get to thank you. But you're too kind. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thanks for being here every week. You guys are the best. The best. That's what I say. Yeah. Here's a comment on quad Cortex versus what I was talking about earlier. Like, you rarely need the computer editor. I agree. Often with the quad, I'm like, I could plug in and use a computer editor, but do I need to? Not really. Even the other day, because I'm setting up sounds to do this gig in Finland with the quad, and I had it plugged into my computer because I was listening to it. I do this all the time. I play it through my laptop speakers. Like, just when I'm, roughing in sounds, I can dial in a preset roughly using the laptop speakers, and using Logic, I set it as the audio interface, the quad. And then I set the audio output as my MacBook Pro speakers, and I can play through my laptop and kind of practice with the quad plugged into the laptop. It's great. So I was doing that, and then I'm like, well, I've got to plug in the computer. I could just be editing on the computer editor. Why am I doing it on the quad? But it's because it's that simple. It really is just as fast, just about, to do everything on the quad itself as it would be on a computer editor. There's not too many devices that I can say that about. So that's a great thing about the quad Cortex for sure. Yeah. Yeah. What else? Moving down through the chat. I would look into the AM4 from Fractal for $699. Good deal compared to the Line 6 HX Stomp. The AM4 is slightly more limited on effects. If he's already got his amp scene worked out, or amp sounds, I'd look at the VP4. But an AM4 is great for, obviously there's amp models and stuff too. So if you need that, cool. If you're primarily looking for effects, probably want the VP4. Yeah. Then you can even do 4 cable and stuff. Run some stomp style effects in front, run some other stuff in the loop, have it all covered. Yeah. I don't think the Collective Soul guys get enough love for their riffs and killer tones. Yeah, talented dudes. Did you know, I probably told this story before. Oh, some other super chats I gotta grab there in a minute. That original tune, what was it called? Shine, I think. Is that what it was called? The hit that kind of blew them up was a demo, and the drums on it, and if you listen to it, some of you guys probably know the story, but the drums on it are SR16 Alesis, one of those late, like probably came out in 88 or 89 Alesis SR16 drum machines, which sounded pretty damn good for the time. But like now, if you listen to it, it's like pretty, it's a little cheesy sounding. But I remember I had access to one. I don't think I owned it, but I somehow, a friend of mine had one, I think, and that I did some demos with it on 4-track and stuff, because I know I've used one of those quite a bit. So you ever have that problem? Was that mine? I don't think it was mine. I borrowed it. But anyways, as the story goes, the main dude in Collective Soul, is his name Ed, I think. He had kind of broken the band up and was really pursuing trying to get a publishing deal. And really nothing going on with the band, although they'd been a band for a while. And so he was writing some songs and trying to get a publishing deal. And he recorded that song, that Shine song, and he sent it to some folks trying to get some interest, as a songwriter. Not really as a Collective Soul band, but as a songwriter. Some DJ picked it up in the Atlanta area and started playing it, and it took off and became a hit. And I think it's his mix and everything of it that I'm pretty sure maybe they remixed it for the record or something and mastered it or something. But if you listen to the drum sounds, it's SR16, and it's like really rudimentary drum programming, like the just the pattern of the hi-hat and everything. It sounds like somebody that programmed a drum machine pattern in about 15 minutes and then threw it down on a 4-track or something, and then added some guitars and everything. But it's a great song, obviously, and it doesn't. Good song's a good song is a good song. It doesn't matter, It's just kind of an interesting story that's what happened. So the song takes off, and they're like, all of a sudden, all this opportunity comes up, and to obviously, like, hey, you gotta put the band back together, kind of thing, and he does it based on that song. So it's just kind of a cool story, I think. Totally organic. That some local DJ picked it up in Atlanta. I'm sure you can find the story online, and I'm probably getting some elements of it wrong, but I'm not getting wrong that it was his demo that was meant to, while he was shopping for a publishing deal, and that the drums are SR16. It's kind of cool. Yeah. PT15's been my number one go-to for pretty much everything. That's awesome. I have others like the Jose and 5150s, but PT's the most versatile. Love that. I love to hear it. Love it. Love it. Have you run a GPDIR into a power station? Is that Freyet's preamp? I have not. GPDI, I haven't. But I have a power station, so I'm well familiar with that piece of gear, of course. I was down in the front at Watford. You gave me your pick. Great show. Cool. I remember you, man. Thank you. Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for coming. Yeah. What else we got here? Let's see. Have you ever tried your quad Cortex with the pedal head yet? I haven't, but I'm going to use it. I know it'll work because I've used the quad for a long time in a Seymour Duncan, the power station, or power stage. It's called, right? Power stage, the Duncan. And which works okay. You know, it's just a straight up Class D with some basic tone controls and stuff. But what's going on with the Wampler and the power amp that's in the IR load and stuff is light years, you know, advanced. So I know it'll work good. So yeah, it's just a one-off. You know, it's we've got to go to Finland. We can't bring the truck. We can't bring all the gear and everything like that. So it's become a fly date, and you know, so we gotta basically, it's a real challenge to jump off a tour where you've got a semi truck full of gear. Literally, we have a semi that's packed to the brim with gear for this tour. And then now we got to go do a gig, basically the same show with whatever we can fly with. That's the challenge. That's life on the road sometimes. Also have a corporate gig, a private thing, right at the end of this tour in Las Vegas. That is the same thing, where we just fly in and do it with, you know, a couple guitars and keep it basic. So, but we can do that. That's the job, man. What's your opinion about the Hotcat 50? I did a video for it. I thought it was great. Sort of, I was talking about it earlier, sort of sophisticated sounding compared to my 50-watt Marshall, real rich in the mids is my memory of it. But I think he's got even a new version of that amplifier out now. So that might be even beyond what I did a video of. So look on their website and see if it's new for 2026 version of the Hotcat, because I think it might be. But the one I tried, I thought was very nice. You know, the older sort of, you know, last gen version. Yeah, I'm now using the PT15 Live with FM3 to front of house. Sounds amazing. Digital, analog, and wet dry. Oh, amazing. That's cool. So how do you do that? FM3 to front of house. Do you go out of the LUD box out into the FM3 and then run 3 outs or something? Or how are you doing it? Sounds interesting. What's the setup? Yeah. Are you and John Suhr able to distribute with Long and McQuaid? You know, those guys handle all that up in Canada as far as who's dealers. I have nothing to do with it, but I don't know if they're in any Long and McQuaid stores in Canada, to be honest. I know that they were at Cosmo, which I think now isn't Cosmo gone now in Canada, which is sad. I mean, it was an amazing store. And that was kind of, you know, Toronto area. And I think they had, there's a bunch sort of across Canada, different Suhr dealers. I've done clinics at, for instance, Stang Music in Edmonton. I've got buddies there. They're a dealer in Canada. So you can always hit them up. They've got a dealer in Calgary as well, a great guitar player, Reed, and I always forget the name of the shop, and that sucks. I should remember the name of the let me figure it out here. I'll Google it. But I did a clinic for them once. Calgary, Suhr. I'm sure they probably have a dealer set up in Winnipeg. Guitar Works. That's it. I always remember because I had to check this out. You can kind of see it. Let me see here. If I show you, you see that giant Stratocaster on top of the store? That's the store I did the clinic in Calgary, Guitar Works in Calgary. They're still a Suhr dealer, I think. I'm pretty darn sure. And went there and did a clinic. But that Strat is amazing. Like, they commissioned this thing to be built, and it looked, I mean, it really looks like a Strat on top of a building. It's like the strings and everything are kind of accurate and to scale, and you know, the arm wear, like a pretty darn good sunburst on a giant Stratocaster. But anyways, that's Guitar Works. Yeah, Calgary. So some different dealers in Canada for sure, but I don't know about Long and McQuaid. I don't think so, but maybe they are. Yeah, that's a question for them for sure. Okay, I'm going to move down through the chat a little bit here, move a little faster. Where do you post your live appearances and performance in advance so we can see you live? Oh, generally on, if I'm going to be somewhere, I mean, I'll put up things on Instagram, or I'll put them on Facebook, where it's like, hey, I'm headed on tour and here's the dates, you know. So like, you know, the Satch Vi dates, for instance, would be the next one in the States that I posted a while ago. But let me see, if I go to my IG, there'll be a whole list of dates. There they are, kind of in the middle of my IG page there. You can see it's down about 10 rows back now. I suppose I should post it again. But one thing about Instagram, it's not the best place to post things like this, because I don't know how that works, but generally with text on pictures, they throttle that and it doesn't get a lot of views. So, I put it up and it's got 584 views or something. You would think it would have more than that. But right there in the about 10 rows down, the rows of 3 on Instagram, you can find the Satchvi dates. And I posted that on Instagram as well a while back. So that's a bunch of dates in the US. Posted some other stuff up there recently. But anyways, do you ever jumper the channels on the Bassman? No, my Bassman's kind of modded, actually. It's got a Roy Blankenship mod on the left channel that would normally be kind of the bass channel or whatever, a normal channel. And it's kind of for an open kind of gainy sound where it lifts the EQ or something that he did to it. So it's kind of got its own thing going on. So I just plug into one channel or the other. Generally speaking, I just use the right channel and, with the volume up on 6 or 7 and the treble on 6 or 7 and the bass on like 4, and it just rocks there. Sometimes bright on, sometimes bright off. Yeah. That's a great sound. Or if I want it cleaner, I run it down at about 3.5 for pedal demos and stuff for clean sounds. Looking into the Thornbucker 2, is it a similar sound to the Duncan 78? Yeah, sort of similar. Yeah. It's not the same or anything, but it's about a 9K Alnico 2, similar thing. But we just did Thornbucker wind on it, which is our own, certain offset and things like that. So yeah, I get a ground loop with any amp using my pedal board 4-cable method. Samson ML1 or ML-1 works great, but it's just one more thing to connect. Any other option that always stays connected on the board itself. Yeah, you could have the jack that sends out to the front of the amp. You could have an isolation transformer put in there. As a matter of fact, if you want to, just mount the Samson on the board underneath. So like wherever your patch is that's going to the jack, right, on your board that goes out to there, just literally mount the isolation transformer. Like I have a board that's like that, where there's actually my 3/4 size board, kind of I call it. My second pedal board has a ML, the Samson ISO transformer mounted underneath. And then I can actually flip the switch on it because it's great. Because then that's what you should do, is actually just whatever your, the temple boards are great for that, because then you can just, whatever that last cable sending out of your switcher or whatever sending out to the front of the amp for your, send for the 4-cable out to the input of the amp. Just put that underneath, mount it there, dual lock or whatever, real secure, and then take another patch cable and run that out to the side of the board where you're sending it out. That's my idea for you. Simple. Now you can build an isolation transformer into the jack. That's literally like on the sand, but that's more complicated, and then you can't really defeat it if you don't have a ground loop, because there's going to be times where you might not want to run 4-cable, and then you won't be grounded properly and stuff. So yeah. So use the ML1 with a little switch on it. It's perfect for that. Just put it on underneath the board. Yeah. Good little trick. Yeah. Yeah. So here's somebody actually suggesting with Velcro. Yeah. That's the other thing. Jumping channels on a Bassman is out of phase. You'd have to use a specially made cable. You would. Yeah. You'd have to. Yeah. I think they are out of phase. Can't just use them together. Same thing on an AC30. Normal and bright channel are out of phase. Are you a fan of Devin Townsend? What I've heard of him is amazing. To be honest, I just haven't listened enough to really get into it. But I know he's brilliant, and I've watched some things over the years and stuff, and so, but I've never like dived in deep. I remember when he did the Sex and Religion album with Vi, and that's probably the last time I listened to like a full record of his stuff. So I'm just not super versed in it. Maybe you guys can make some recommendations of where I should start. It's a little like Steven Wilson for me. Like I know the Fear of a Blank Planet album, but that's about it. I haven't really listened to too much more. And there's these genius guys that I should be listening to more of, but I'm just not super hip to, and I should probably get into it. So I'm a little like that with Tool, you know, like I know individual tracks and stuff, but I'm not like, you know, just how it is, I guess. Is your stage volume at the moment with your new Freeman IR load louder than two PT15s? Not really. I could definitely get two PT15s up to the volume that I play out on stage. You know, it's not super quiet. It's not super loud. I like to these days. My ears are really bothering me these days. I've hit that point where I think I've I got to be careful with my hearing. So I'm wearing in-ears for the whole show almost. I pull them out sometimes for the last couple of songs, but that's about it. And I'm trying to keep the volume quite low in the pack because I can hear them right now. I've got tinnitus. I just do. So it's almost, mid 50s and it's just happening. So I have to be careful. So what we generally do is have Pete Melton, our sound guy, go out to the front of the stage and he'll listen to both our guitar cabs have screens in front of them, the plexi panels, kind of like Joe Bonamassa uses. And we'll have those panels up. And then, even with those, I've got a bit of my cabinet cheated so that one of the speakers, one on the sides of the 412 is coming out. Cause I like to get, it does screw up feedback and things like that, having the panel there. So I like to have one side open so I can get the guitar into it and get the feedback I need and stuff. Cause I like to do some infinite sustain stuff on a few songs. So Pete will go out and stand in front and listen to the sound of the drums coming off the stage and then listen to the guitars and make sure we're about balanced. And he's really cool. He likes guitar. He's not an anti-guitar sound guy or, a big complainer about guitar volume. But and so I totally trust him when he's like, yeah, can you bring it down a little bit? Or it's like, yeah, no problem. If you say so, I trust you because I know he's got me in the PA. Yeah, so we're a good team. But so having said all this, I don't even like playing too loud on stage these days. So it's generally whatever volume. I mean, we've got a heavy hitter, a good rock drummer in our band, and so he's kind of setting the tone up there of the volume, and then we bring the guitars up to kind of blend with that. And then Wayne's actually playing a little louder on this tour. He's got a very small bass rig with an SVT3 and a couple of their 210 cabinets, but those will make good. It's a 300 watt kind of affair. It'll make good power as well. So the bass is at a nice volume on stage now too. Not loud at all by any means, but like I can finally hear Wayne's bass amp on stage, which is nice. For years I always felt like there's a bit of hole there. And then Pete, our sound guy, was like, bring the bass up a little bit. Your bass got to be louder. So that's now we're kind of got a nice blend of the two guitars, and Jesse plays some guitars while he's got a Vox AC15 up there. And the bass and the drums. I mean, it's nice center fill, so that like it sounds like a rock band. I mean, if you watch videos of us from the front row, it still sounds good. It's not like there's this hole and all you can hear is, you know what I mean? Like it sounds like ambient sound going overhead or whatever. We sound like you can hear the drums and the guitars and the bass and everything coming up the stage a little bit, and it sounds good and it's blended. So, but a PT15 is they're not quiet. I mean, if you don't want them to be, you can get good volume out of them. So I could probably do this tour with two PT15s, no problem, instead of the PT100s, to be honest, at the volume I'm playing at now. Yeah, that's actually true. Any chance of the Satisfy tour with you coming to Edmonton at Rogers Place? I would love that, but we've only got the one Canadian date right now in Toronto, and I wish we had more. Wish we were going to Vancouver at least or something. And definitely, I'd love to go to Edmonton, Calgary. Obviously, that'd be a dream come true for me to do that with those guys, but. Yeah, that'd be super full circle after seeing Joe around 1990, playing with Stu Ham and Jonathan Mover on tour at the Edmonton. What the heck was it? I can't remember the venue where I saw them, but that was kind of the first time I ever saw a show that had a few thousand people that was, in a venue, and it was solo guitar. There was no lead singer all night. It was amazing, seeing him do that. And it's like a light bulb went off for me. Like, wow, instrumental guitar is really getting, to the point where you can do that. And he had radio hits, it blew my mind. So to be able to go back and play with him now that I'm playing with him would be amazing. But anyways. What time is it? It's about, I'm probably going to go pretty soon. I think I've been on for about, it's almost 10. So I'm going to split in about 10 minutes, you guys. But this has been amazing. I probably got some super chats I got to hit there. So I'm going to try and do that real quick here as well and make sure I don't miss those and just take a few more questions. Do any of your bands bring your own PA. We're carrying PA right now. Yeah. So we have full stacks and monitor console and front of house console, the whole 9 yards. I mean, our sound guy has a system tech. It's like, this is a pretty full blown, I'm not kidding when I say we've got a semi that's full of gear, you know, it's like, you know, full text, full lights, full production, full everything. Do we use them all the time? There's some venues that we've got gigs in where we just can't bring the PA in, you know, where it's like, there's a few on this tour that are like that, where it's like, okay, we're not bringing PA in today and flying PA, but yeah, no, it's a full line array rig in the whole 9 yards. So, Satchify, I believe we carried PA. We certainly carried desks. I think they carried PA everywhere in Europe. I don't know about the States, you know, exactly what's happening, but I show up on day one and I see what it is because I'm not part of the production team, you know, but I have version 1 Suhr SL67. Any suggestion on getting the Mark II fat cap effect via a pedal? Not really. It's a very subtle thing, first of all, the fat cap thing. I mean, it just switches in and, you know, it's a slightly different cap on V2. Just a fatter sound, but it doesn't really change the gain per se. I probably wouldn't worry about it that much unless, you know, yeah, it's because it's in the middle of the amplifier. You're not going to be able to really replicate it, you know, I don't think. With a pedal of any sort. Yeah. Okay, there's those super chats. For Chug with tight low end, rock amp set gainy with pedals. Set clean with a high gain pedal. Can these options compare to dedicated high gain amp? Well, I mean, it's up to you. You know, you have to try and see. But if you listen to my video recently for that 5150 modern high gain, that's a clean channel. You can hear me turn it off, and I show you what the pedal clean sounds like. Or sorry, what the amp clean sounds like without the pedal, I should say. You know, there's some great high gain pedals now. They're pretty impressive. Yeah, rock amp, set gainy with pedals, set clean with high gain. Can these options compare to dedicated high gain? You know, a JCM 800 boosted with the right thing can be amazing. You know, like something like I say, like this PEQ3 pedal that's like this, it's the EQ from Hell pedal, I think it's called, that I'm using right now to do that. It's pretty great for boosting something like an 800 into, you know, metal or rock high gain kind of sound, you know. I mean, a lot of people did that. I mean, Kerry King, you know, 800 with boost and stuff. So it's all a formula, you know. Can it compare? It's like, well, maybe nothing can compare to an SD1 through an old Marshall, you know, or an OD1, you know. It's just a certain thing. I mean, the way they used to lop off low end and then hit the front end of the amp, it was kind of almost like a poor man's Jose Marshall or something, the way they sounded. There's something about a great high gain amp that just, where everything's running at high voltage and designed in the circuit and tuned in the amplifier. And I mean, that's the, you know, whether it's a Suhr or, you know, the when we think about the, you know, the Dookie sound, you know, of, you know, that was a CAE, you know, originating from Suhr and Martin, CAE modding an old Marshall and that tight, aggressive crunch. I mean, sure, can you do it with a pedal? Like, yeah, but it was done with the amp. There's so many examples where it was done with the amp, you know, SLOs and, you know, just that great, it's kind of nothing really. You can get great sounds. It always surprises me that the EVH modern high gain surprised me, sound amazing, you know. But yeah, I think that it's like we're also talking about kind of a niche thing these days a little bit. Like it's a bit niche, the idea of hard rock high gain as being that, you know, I see a lot of bands these days with fuzz pedals, you know, using some kind of fuzz into you know, and that's kind of the cooler, you know what I mean? So it's like there's not any one way. I guess what I'm getting at is in the 80s or something, it used to be like, you know, Jose Marshalls and boosted Marshalls and whatever, maybe some people using boogies and like some other stuff, but that was the sound, like high volume 412 cabs Marshalls. And then, you know, you go way into, Caius or something, or Queens of the Stone Age, and you've got amazing kind of distortion sounds all on their own with weird, the PV Decade, or like, Ampeg amps with some sort of, weird fuzz or super mid boosted thing or something, it's like, so it's all the formula. And there's no, I sort of wish, like when you say, can these options compare to a dedicated, I think you're probably right around the corner from some person having a sound that's just like epic, and it's incredible, and it's a Ty Tabor sort of approach to, where it's like some weird solid state amp or a modeling amp, oh, I used the Fender modeling super reverb with a certain fuzz or something, and it's like this unbelievable tone that somebody's created from scratch, and there's only one way to get it, which is that pedal into that amp, and it has nothing to do with our traditional, like it's whatever sounds good is good. I was having this, debate online earlier with this guy that was being kind of like, God bless him, but he was just being kind of silly about capos it's on my threads. But, it all started out with him saying, if you're using a capo, you're not a good guitarist. Imagine a pianist saying, is that pronounced pianist or pianist? Imagine a pianist saying, I can't play in that key. And I go, if you say dumb shit like this, you are either engagement farming or a knucklehead. Michael Beinhorn, who of course produced Super Unknown, responded and said, you should be a bit more open-minded. To me, he could be both. He's a friend of mine. So yeah, it's true. But he just kept going at it and saying like, no, you should be able to play in any key. Like, and people that are primarily keyboard players and stuff, I think they think that about guitar. And it's like, dude, it's not about like, first of all, if it sounds good, it's good. And if somebody uses a capo to get there, who cares? Nobody cares at the end of the day if it sounds good, right? There's not a right or wrong way to do something if the music sounds good. Eddie Van Halen would have told you that, right? If it sounds good, it is good. But I said, furthermore, it's basically in further arguments, I'm like, there's no way to get certain voicings, right, of certain chords without a capo. I mean, I used an example of like an E minor 11 in first position with the low open E string. And then if you want to play that as an F sharp, you can't get that voicing without the capo. There's no way. All your fingers are incorporated in the chord, and you've now got to move the nut, so there's no way to get that particular voicing. I guess to some people that aren't, there's just no way to do it. Like maybe piano players or something, they don't understand that, but you can't just move, To me, a guitar is sort of like having a bunch of piano keyboards all stacked on top of one another at the fifth, every time, you know what I mean? So there's no way they think in a different way. It's a completely different thing. And so a capo is not just a crutch. Sure, it can be that for playing in different keys, but when you consider that it's a voicing dependent thing, there, like you might love the sound of a certain chord, the way it's the voicing with the fingering a certain way, and there's no way to do it right without the capo. So just my point being how I'm relating it, I'm getting a little off track, but not really. The point is, however you get there and it sounds good, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter if it's a pedal in an amp, if it's an amp channel, however you can get a stellar sound. Brian May and a range master and an AC30 there's no better way to, without the amp sounds terrible without the range master, and on the normal channel on 10, it's just mud. Hit the range master and the sky's, part, and the seas part, and the angels sing, and everything's amazing. So I'm the in the open close back cab guy. Oh, you're the open close back cab guy. I only play at bedroom volume, not at gigs. Maybe at low volume the open back doesn't have trouble. Oh yeah, I would say that open back at low volume is just fine for high gains and stuff. At high volume the close back might chug better. Yeah, as soon as you get the volume up is when you're really going to notice stuff like that. Like if you want to play hard rock or metal, you're kind of at a bit of a deficient thing with open, which is, the there's no hard and fast rule. We just talked about Brian May, but you're not really going to get metal chunk or hard rock, the kind of palm muting push and the way that that's supposed to feel, what I'm talking about, at a band volume or something like that, out of an open back. Not so much. It's just it's a different sound, and open back works for a ton of things, but it doesn't really do that to me. You got to close the back of the cabinet for that particular sound, but you also can't get that beautiful spread that you get, and certainly if you're practicing at low volume and you like the way the amp spreads around the room and the diffusion and stuff, that's one thing open backs do beautifully. And even something like I say, like take a Friedman Runt 20 or something that's a little combo or something like that, with an open back, even rock sounds on the distortion channel at practice volume are going to sound really cool through the open back. Yeah, it's just when you get the volume up and the speaker's barely moving, when it's at up, it's there's barely any excursion going on there at low volume, so it's not really a factor as much. What is a factor though is the back of the cabinet being open, there's sound coming out of the back, yes, and that has a nice effect for spreading around a room and when you're practicing and stuff. So yeah. Okay, guys, I'm sorry, I think I gotta go, but let's see. I don't want to go because I want to keep answering questions and stuff, but let me just take a couple more and then I'm gonna split. Been playing for about 3 years with the same gear that I started with, which is 15-watt solid state amp, wanting to get an upgrade, but I'm not sure what to get. Fan of Van Halen. Well, a nice upgrade from where you're at, in the Van Halen vibe would probably be the Iconic, right? It's kind of a isn't it a hybrid kind of design? They also make those new modeling ones, which I haven't tried, which you might give a go. But, go to your local, decent store that sells stuff like that and try something in the Van Halen vein, like the Iconic or something. Because I think they're around 800 to 1,000. They're at a nice price point, and they have a nice clean channel, and they do that kind of, a nice rock distortion channel. I mean, my first amps, I went from a Trainer solid state 10-watt combo that probably had an 8-inch speaker in it to an Ibanez 50-watt solid state combo. Yes, Ibanez made combo amps, and it had a clean channel and a distortion channel. I remember that. It sounded okay, as I remember. And then I went to a solid state Marshall after that. That was a one of the lead MOSFET 100s. Pretty good amp, decent, And then after that, my fourth amplifier was a Boogie Caliber 50 head, finally the tube head. So 4 amps over about maybe 6 years of playing or something. As I got more and more serious and got in a band and playing with drummers and stuff, I had to kind of step it up. But yeah. I saw you in TLV. What's that? Ages ago. I'm not sure where that is, but with Chris Cornell, without knowing who you were, years later studied your option tutorial. And again, without realizing it, only much later I realized it was always you. Thanks. I'm everywhere. Nice to have you here, man. I remember when Shine, that's that track from Collective Soul, was all over the radio, and I totally thought at the time, this sounds like a demo recorded on a 4-track with the drum machine and direct guitars. Totally was. Yeah, that's right. I mean, the drums. It's really bad drum programming, but the song's great. Come on. Doesn't matter, right? Still rocks. So, yeah. I think I'm really far behind in the chat. If we're talking about that, that should be my clue. I don't know if I missed any other. No, I'm at the bottom now. I don't think I missed any other super chats. I hope not, because I'm going to split in a sec. But first good amp, Marshall Lead 100 MOSFET. Love it still. It's another one that I've almost rebought numerous times. Somebody contacted me a while ago and said, I think I've got your cabinet. It came with a 410 cabinet. That was kind of cool. By the way, same size as the PT15 cabinet. Those little Marshall cabs, exact same size, which is an 80 style cab that I had with the 410s. I still remember getting that. My mom got it for me for Christmas. It was one of the coolest Christmas gifts I ever got. Little Marshall under the tree. Are you kidding me? With the cabinet. And I was so excited. And it was really good, that little amp, just fine, awesome. But anyways, yeah. What else? I'm just kind of having a look. Thanks for the stream. Have a great week. Thank you. Thanks for being here. I mean, we had a pretty good 250 people online for being at an odd time on a Monday. I'm pretty happy. So, pretty stoked about that. Firm believer a pro guitarist needs to be able to play solidly in any key, the end. However, there are certain things you absolutely need open strings for, especially if you're copying parts. Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I mean, there's the guitar is such a unique thing, right? Because yeah, sure, any key, but the problem is that for yes, if you're in certain worlds, of course, but it doesn't really make sense in Van Halen, AC/DC, Soundgarden. Like there's so many examples I can give you where transposing on the guitar is not going to work because it doesn't sound right. You kind of have to retune for the key because of tuning, because of timbre, of the way notes sympathetically ring against one another, open strings, all that stuff, right? So yeah, so period, the end, not really, dude. I mean, not in my world, I mean, it's you want to play, Cochise by Audio Slave, in F sharp. There's no way to really do it without retuning the guitar up or playing it with a capo. Like, and I don't know why you would want to. I guess if you have to play it with a female singer or something, but it's not going to sound right. It's just not going to sound the way that the riffs sound, because I'm a stickler for that shit. You know who did kind of do that in Chris Cornell's band was Yogi, because Yogi was a good jazz player. He actually had a jazz background. It's kind of funny. I'm actually remembering this now, that when we would do certain Soundgarden songs that had wacky ass tunings, he would play some of them with the tunings, but other ones he would play in standard tuning and just figure out different ways to play them. And I never approached it like that. And Chris never approached it like that. That's all I'll say about it. He just kind of because it part of the sound of, for instance, like the song Super Unknown, I don't know if Yogi retuned for that or not. I did. I mean, because it's got a weird tuning. It's like you drop the two low strings a whole step. So the low E goes down to D, and the fifth string goes down to G. And it's kind of the only way to play this. I mean, you can't, the way the notes ring against one another and stuff, the riff doesn't sound right. It's not, so you can't, I don't think you can make that blanket statement. Like, sure, jazz, this comes from a jazz perspective, often. And, that players are like, well, you got to be able to transpose, play at any key at any time. But it doesn't really apply to correct, because when people do it, they're like, watch, you can just do this. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't sound right. You're actually, I know you think you're being clever and that you're doing it the right way, because I'm a musician, I can play in any key, but it doesn't have the correct timbre for certain kinds of, because rock music often is about open strings ringing with a certain timbre. I mean, and I'm a nerd about that shit, about certain things, Van Halenisms, AC/DC, when the chords are supposed to be with open stuff. I mean, Alex Lifeson, it's like, with a bunch of open strings ringing sympathetically and stuff against fretted notes. You can't just play it in another key and have it sound right. You could do some version of the song, but it's going to sound kind of like cover bandy amateur. It's not going to sound right. And that's, by the way, a big part of my career and why I get the gigs that I have. You know what I mean? Because when I go in and play the parts, I'm not the greatest guitarist in the world, and I'm not the most, and I can't, shred on, giant steps and stuff like that. But what I will do is come in with the right sounds, with the parts learned in the correct position, played right, with the timbre right. I want it to sound like the friggin' record, the part, as a basis to start from, when I go in and do an audition or something like that. I want the singer to turn around and go, holy shit, like that sounds like this guy did his homework. That sounds like my song. You know what I mean? And when you're trying to make it sound like the song with the right guitar tone and that's my whole shtick is, as a side guy, when you're doing your own music, who cares? Because it's your songs, and it's like nobody's, they don't have a frame of reference. So if you want to play your own songs in a different key or whatever, unless it becomes a hit, now you're kind of locked into trying to make it sound like the hit, maybe, unless you want to do a different version of it. But you know where I'm going with this. In the genre that I kind of live in, really, really, really important to capture the gist of what was going on, you know what I mean, with the original stuff. So yeah, all right, so that's it. That's my story there. In your honest opinion, why aren't the Iron Maiden guitarists more widely cited as guitar idols? I don't know that. Because I think that too. I think they're great lead guitar players. I love their dueling solos and their harmonies and stuff. And I think kind of Iron Maiden actually exists in its own. Uh, Iron Maiden wins no matter what. Like Iron Maiden can go to just about any city anywhere and sell like 10,000 tickets at least, if not 20. Or headline festivals, and do it without radio play or without any kind of they're their own culture. And so they're an interesting band in that way. They're their own, it's almost like its own kind of music. They don't really sound like any other kind of metal band. But they're Iron Maiden people are Iron Maiden people. You know what I'm talking about? Like they're just all in on, but maybe it has, because I feel like a bit the same way about Judas Priest, that the two guitar players were never, seen as like guitar idols in the same way that for instance, Randy Rhoads was, or and some of their stuff is awesome. But maybe it's the fact that having two guys in the band kind of diluted, maybe if it was just one guitar player getting to take all the solos, maybe it's that it was a back and forth. Sometimes you weren't sure who was playing what solo, and maybe they did them with kind of similar amps and tones and stuff. Because often I wouldn't know until I saw a video or something. Oh, who was actually playing that solo? Is it Dave Murray or Adrian Smith? I wouldn't actually know. So maybe it's something to do with that. But love Maiden 100%. Like I'm completely a fan. And I've thought this, I'll tell you my Iron Maiden story and then I'll go. I saw Iron Maiden on the Power Slave tour. I got to run downstairs for a minute, so I'm gonna get my shoes and put them on. Hold on. I saw them on the Power Slave tour. So that's about 86. And there was like 15,000 people there, I think, in Edmonton. I remember it well. And they were at the, 2 minutes to midnight and all that. They were at the top of their game. And then I saw them a few years after that. I think it was 89. I don't know if it was Seventh Son of a Seventh Son or the album that came after that or something. But there was only like, I don't know if it was like just the album wasn't doing well or if it was a promoter issue, but there was like 3,500 people in the same venue. And I was like, oh, I guess maybe Iron Maiden started dying a little bit, I don't know. And then like get into the 90s, and of course Bruce left for a while, and things happened, and I think didn't Adrian leave for a while, and things, whatever happened. Fast forward 2008. So now I'm playing with Chris Cornell. I've got there, I've done my whole like stint at MI. I've moved to LA and stuff, and my career's starting to do things, and I'm like at that point, whatever, where things are going good for me and stuff like that. And I remember knowing a journalist in Edmonton that I'd done, because I was in the local paper sometimes and stuff, where she was really nice to me and stuff. And I remember writing an article like "Local Boy Does Good" kind of thing, the Edmonton Journal. And I remember going home for a trip once, like in the middle of touring with Chris, and Iron Maiden was playing. And I called up this journalist. I was like, hey, could you get me a ticket by any chance? Because I think it might be sold out. And like, she's like, yeah, I'll get you into the show. So she actually got me into the show from the Edmonton Journal, the local newspaper. And I'm like, great. So, I just happened to be in town when Maiden was playing. So I went to the same venue and I saw them where I'd seen, it was Northlands, which is closed now, but Northlands Coliseum was still open then. Went down there, pulled into the parking lot. It was full, like parking lot was packed, and everybody's like parking lot parties and going off and cranking music and stuff. It was like the old days. It was amazing. This is 2008. And I remember getting out of the car and going, well, this is a good vibe. And going inside, and man, every merch booth all the way as wide, there'd be merch booth space throughout the concourse, as far wide as you could get, and as far back all the way to the doors was packed with people in line waiting to buy new Iron Maiden t-shirts. It was like the whole place. There wasn't anybody in there that wasn't wearing an Iron Maiden shirt. And it was grandparents, parents, kids, like teenagers, little kids. It was like generational. It was amazing. And it was just like, whoa, like, and I hadn't really been to an Iron Maiden show, I don't think since like 89 or something. This is 2008. And there's like 14,000 people there, and they came out and just totally kicked ass and like destroyed. And it was like, this is amazing. Like the crowd was super loud. I remember super into it. And I was like, okay, this is incredible. Like this is a phenomenon beyond radio and MTV and everything. Like, who cares? It's just like that's why I think, Iron Maiden wins no matter what. They really just like are a legacy band, but the legacy carries on and they just continue. And it's just like, you know, their fans are their fans. It's Metallica's a little like that too, you know, obviously, but, you know, there's just something about Maiden where they like, there's this subculture of like, but it's big. It's a big subculture of hard rock and metal, and it's its own thing. And so I think no matter what, you know, it's almost like its own genre, Iron Maiden. And I've got great respect for them. So, and I'll end it on that. So, guys, this was amazing. Thanks for having, you know, the ability and what am I trying to say? I'm just trying to think. I'm stumbling over my words, but just to show up on a Monday at noon is really kind of you, because I know it's not the normal time for the show, and I really appreciate it. Really fun show. It's always fun. I love doing this with you nice folks. So I'll just take one quick look here before I go to tell you where I'm at next week on Sunday, because hopefully I can just do this on Sunday. I moved my master tour app to a place on my phone where I forgot where I put it. There it is. Yeah, I'll be at Ipswich next week. I should be able to do one midday. It'll be just a normal gig day. So maybe it'll be an early morning Sunday thing in the US, super early, like, you know, 7 a.m. or something like that. So if you're on the East Coast, you can watch it around 10, something like that. Or you can catch the replay, something like that. But yeah, I'll do one next week. Maybe I can take you out on stage and show you the IR load real quick and stuff, and show you what's neat about it. Give you a quick preview of the things I'm digging about it and stuff like that. And so let's do that next week. Okay. Thanks, guys. Hey, if you've been around since the beginning, 400 episodes, you're amazing. Thank you for being here. I have. All right, everybody. Have a terrific week. Be nice to one another. Love y'all. Can't thank you enough. And take it easy. Over and out. Till next time.